when you think about your practice since starting, are you doing more warehouse manufacturing? Are you doing data centers or corporate headquarter moves?
70% is manufacturing and 30% is everything else. So, a smattering of data centers, the occasional corporate headquarters. Probably the number two would be warehouses. Within warehouses, we have a niche in cold storage. We've done a lot of really big cold storage projects, and the cold storage sector is pretty small and insular. So you do good work for one cold storage company or one cold storage user, and word travels fast. So we've kind of carved out a little niche in cold storage. Plus, we really know how to do those deals. They're really property tax heavy because the assets are so expensive and so heavily taxed. So there's sort of an approach to cold storage deals that are different from an incentives perspective. And we've gotten pretty good at that. But yeah, the majority of our projects are manufacturing, have been really for the last 5 years, I'd say.
So you mentioned corporate headquarters. So somebody says they're in New York and they want to move across the country. Why don't you take them through the steps of figuring this out?
Yeah, so corporate headquarters, so there's no supply chain implications because they're not moving stuff around. So it really becomes a people exercise. Where can you find the workforce that the headquarters needs? That's an element of it. What is going to be the transition plan? So we've done headquarters projects in the past. Of course, you don't close one headquarters on a Friday and open the next one on a Monday. There's going to be some overlap. So determining how you ramp up one headquarters and ramp down the other becomes a factor. And then there are always kind of other things to consider. Headquarters tend to be driven a lot of times by where the C-suite wants to relocate. If the C-suite is relocating, which you would argue they'd have to in order for the headquarters to be there. A headquarters without the C-suite is not much of a headquarters. So that becomes an issue. Where do other key members of the organization's leadership team outside of the C-suite, where are they willing to go? For those who are not going to move with the company, where can you find the depth of talent to work in that sector? All of those things become a factor, even to the point where you would look at things like how would leadership travel from the locations, the geographic locations where the headquarters could go to be able to access other key nodes within the organization's platform. If they're relocating from New York, you have the benefit of 3 major international airports. You're not going to relocate a multinational company probably to somewhere that doesn't have an international airport. So that would be a factor. There would be, probably 20 things that once we sat down with the C-suite and the folks who were stakeholders in the project, they would come up with a list of the 20 or so criteria. You weight them, you determine how to apply them to an evaluation of various geographic markets, and then you start doing the math.
Data centers you mentioned, when you have to find a data center site.
Data centers are not big users of talent, but they have important roles to fill. You don't have many data centers that don't have anyone working there. Generally speaking, the relationship between number of jobs created and capital invested is probably as low as it gets. Even number of jobs per square foot of the facility size is probably as low as it gets. But you still have some key roles. And so you can't disregard access to labor. But the paradox with that is you also typically are not building data centers near things. You want them as far away from other infrastructure as possible. And so the trick with the data center work that we've been doing recently is how do you find that sort of Goldilocks area far enough away that you have these mission critical facilities not near things like airports, for example, but at the same time, you're close enough to population centers where you can staff the thing. And then at the same time, where can you find sites that have ample power? Because right now, with the big thing in data centers, obviously, is this rise in the necessity of AY computing. That's what's driving the projects that we're working on. That's what's driving it. the timeline to that, our clients are not coming to us and saying, oh, well, we need to start thinking about a data center for 5 years from now. That's not, they're saying we needed this last year. So we need to find sites that are ready to go now. And like I said before, those sites just aren't out there the way that they used to be. And so there's a lot of sort of finding the needle in the haystack for these big